I found something in my portfolio I wasn't supposed to see. I own Apple 7 different times, Microsoft 6, NVIDIA 4. Across 22 positions, 5 accounts, I've got the same 7 stocks, repeated over and over. With a fee on every copy, I thought I was diversified. I wasn't, and you probably aren't either. Here's how this happens, and it happens to almost everyone. You start with a total market ETF, smart, low fee. Then someone says growth is the play. You add a growth fund. Dividends sound responsible. You add a dividend ETF. Your 401k has a target date fund, the default HR picked before you started. Maybe there's an international fund in there too, 5 funds. Feels responsible. Feels like what a serious investor does. Let me show you what's inside. Apple, total market, obviously. Growth fund, it's a growth stock. Dividend fund, Apple pays a dividend now. Target date fund, it holds the total market, so yes. International, global funds almost always hold US mega caps, so probably yes, one company. 5 funds, you didn't diversify. You stacked the same thing 5 times and gave each layer a different name. Now run the same math for Microsoft. NVIDIA, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, Tesla, 7 stocks. Wearing 40 different tickers, and every single one of those slices has a fee. The industry wants this to look complicated. When an advisor hands you a statement with 40-line items, it feels like work is being done. Sophistication, active management, but every layer costs money. Your total market fund charges 0.03%, basically nothing. The growth fund, 0.40%. The dividend fund, 0.35%. That target date fund in your 401k might be 0.65%, and you never see the line item. It just quietly reduces your balance, and if there's an advisor on top, 1% every year, up or down. Let me put real dollars on this, $500,000. Your overlapping funds average 0.50% in expenses. That's $2,500 a year. Advisor takes 1%, another $5,000, $7,500 gone. Every year. Now compound that over 30 years. A portfolio with 1.5% total fee drag versus 0.05% on the exact same underlying stocks. The difference? Roughly $1.6 million, not a crash. Not a bad bet. Fees. On stocks you already owned 5 different ways, the fee never shows up on your statement. It just takes a percentage every year until you're sitting there with dramatically less than you should have. That's not a strategy. That's optimism with a brokerage account. But here's the thing. The fees aren't even the worst part. The worst part is what this overlap does to your brain. You look at 40 positions and think, I'm protected. If one thing fails, 39 things catch me. That feeling is false. When those 7 stocks drop, everything drops. Your growth fund, your dividend fund, your 401k, all of them. Because they all own the same companies. The top 10 stocks in the S&P 500 now make up over 30% of the entire index. Highest concentration in decades. Even a single total market fund is already heavy on 7 names. Adding more funds on top doesn't spread your risk. It concentrates it further. You just can't see it because the tickers are different. Now here's a number that should genuinely make you pause. Hendrik Bessembinder, a professor at Arizona State, analyzed every US stock going back to 1926, all 26,000 of them. Nearly a century of data. His finding, 57% of all stocks failed to beat treasury bills. More than half of everything ever listed, worse than cash. And nearly all the wealth the stock market ever created came from just 4% of companies. 4%, the other 96%, collectively nothing. Zero net wealth. So you're paying fees on 40 positions thinking each one adds something. The math says the entire game is played by a tiny handful of winners. And you own those winners 5 times each. With a fee on every copy, you're not diversified. You're concentrated. You just don't know it. So why do smart people do this? Why does someone with a degree and a spreadsheet look at 40 overlapping positions and think, yes, this is smart? There's a name for it, the diversification heuristic. Your brain has a shortcut. More items equals more safety. A grocery store with 40 cereals feels more trustworthy than one with 3, even if every box comes from the same factory. The financial industry understands this shortcut better than you do. An advisor who puts you in 3 funds has to justify their 1% fee. 3 funds takes about 20 minutes of actual work per year. But 40 funds? That looks like ongoing management. Quarterly rebalancing? Sophisticated allocation decisions. You're not paying for performance. You're paying for the feeling of being managed, and look, most advisors aren't evil. They were trained to believe this. The whole industry runs on the assumption that more positions, more complexity, more activity equals better outcomes. The data says otherwise. Decades of data. Simple, low-cost portfolios beat complicated, high-fee portfolios almost every time. The more you touch it, the more it costs. The more it costs, the less you keep. Charlie Munger. The whole trick in investing is to not diversify too much. He held 3 or 4 positions at a time. Stanley Druckenmiller averaged 30% annual returns for 30 years. His rule? Big money in a few things you understand deeply. Owning 40 things you've never really thought about is not a strategy. It's a security blanket with an expense ratio. Let me be clear about one thing. The solution is not more complexity. It's less one total US market index fund. One total international fund. That's it. 2 funds. Maybe 1 if you want to keep it simple. The US total market holds every publicly traded company in America. Apple, Microsoft, the small caps, the mid caps, everything. At 0.03%. 1 fee, no overlap. You own the 4% of companies that drive all the returns. You own them once. The international fund covers the rest of the world. Not because international always beats the US, it doesn't. But there are decades where it does. And betting 100% on one country is a bet, not a strategy. 2 funds. 1 fee each. No duplication. No advisor taking 1% to shuffle money between the same 7 stocks with different labels. And here's the part that sounds too simple, but is genuinely hard to do. Once you set this up, you do almost nothing. You contribute, you rebalance once a year, and maybe. You don't panic when the market drops because you understand exactly what you own and why. 30 minutes of real thinking a month. That's the whole system. The catch is that doing almost nothing feels wrong. Our brains equate effort with results. If you're not researching and optimizing and moving money around, it doesn't feel like investing. But that feeling is exactly what costs you. Every trade creates friction. Friction is fees. Fees turn 3.8 million into 2.2 million over 30 years. That's the lazy investor way. Not complexity. Almost no work. Just the math. Someone's going to say, what about bonds? What about small cap value? What about alternatives? Here's my answer. If you're 25 to 50 with decades ahead of you, the biggest risk to your portfolio is not a market crash. It's underperformance caused by fees. A crash is temporary. You wait. Fees are permanent. You can't outweight a fee. When the market drops 30%, you have time. When your fees compound for 30 years, that money is gone. And here's what I keep coming back to. When you own 1 or 2 funds, you understand them. You know what's inside. When it drops 20%, you know why. The same 7 stocks that pushed it up are pulling it down. You don't sell at the bottom because you're not confused. Understanding one thing deeply is less risky than skimming a fact sheet on 40 things. Feeling like you're doing the right thing and actually doing the right thing, those are not the same. Here's what I want you to do. If you have your phone nearby, pause right now. Open your portfolio, not the totals, the actual holdings. Go line by line. Count how many times Apple shows up, not how many shares. How many different funds that hold it. I did this and found Apple 7 times. 7. While telling myself I was diversified. Comment that number below. If someone's got Apple in double digits, I genuinely want to know. If this was worth your time, subscribe. See you next week.